Nicolas Cage has always been a hugely beloved actor, thanks to his incomparable dedication to a role and legendary freakouts. But the past few years have been especially kind to the Oscar-winning star. After years of being the sole redeeming quality of otherwise forgettable low-budget B-movies, Cage has recently been able to explore a wide variety of projects in recent times, primarily thanks to his work in cult classic horror projects like Mandy and Color Out of Space. Since then, the beloved actor has been able to balance acclaimed indie projects like the unique John Wick-like culinary drama Pig and the existential dark comedy Dream Scenario, as well as blockbuster-level crowd pleasers like the epic action flick The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent and the upcoming Marvel series Spider Noir. Cage as an actor has always been someone who is attracted to unique premises and concepts, so it's no wonder that he decided to star in and produce The Carpenter's Son, a horror movie of biblical proportions in more ways than one. The ambitious period piece from director Lotfy Nathan boldly attempts to weave an intriguing commentary on faith and religion. In that respect, The Carpenter's Son succeeds, but it also falls prey to some other shortcoming that prevents it from being a true standout in the current Cage-renaissance.
What is The Carpenter's Son about?
Taking place primarily in the year 15 AD, Cage plays a humble and religiously devout carpenter who is thrust into the responsibility of being a husband and a father under unusual circumstances. With the help of his partner, known simply as the mother, the carpenter does his best to care for his growing son as he moves closer and closer to adulthood. However, it soon becomes abundantly clear that the carpenter's son is no ordinary boy, as he's soon the catalyst of events that could be seen as miracles by some and bad omens to others. Thus, the carpenter does his best to shield his son's gifts and curses from the rest of the world, but it doesn't take long for malignant forces to come into play to tip the scales of fate. Since the movie takes place in the year 15 AD, The Carpenter's Son is not a direct horror take on the Bible or the story of Jesus, in the same way that something like Winnie-the-Pooh Blood and Honey is a twisted adaptation of the 100-Acre Wood. Instead, it's a brand new story about a father, a mother, and a son who very much mirror the stories of Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Instead of taking the standard route religiously charged horror movies take by having a perceived second coming be something indefensibly evil in reality, The Carpenter's Son takes a much more nuanced and frankly very intriguing approach. The question Lotfy Nathan's movie asks isn't, what if Jesus was evil? It's what would happen if a normal human being were given access to such divine abilities, making for a funny comparison to Bruce Almighty. Noah Jupe's character is not depicted as this clear and blatant catalyst for the Antichrist, but rather a fallible young man who has had this power thrust upon him. Not evil, fallible, making A Carpenter's Son more of a coming-of-age story as opposed to a high-octane, thrilling horror flick. That's perhaps the biggest hurdle that those expecting a more traditional horror movie with lots of scares will have to get over, as there isn't too much in the way of big, scary moments apart from a handful of sequences. What it does have is an interesting philosophical topic carried by a strong performance by Noah Jupe, with the A Quiet Place star convincingly playing a young man who feels lost in this expansive biblical world.
We love Nicolas Cage, but he feels out of place in The Carpenter's Son. When one says that somebody feels miscast in a movie, it's rarely because the actor themselves gives a poor performance in the role. It usually simply means the actor isn't suited for a part in a way that would play to their strengths. And as much as we love seeing Nicolas Cage give his all in everything he does, he can't help but feel a bit out of place here. As someone who has played everyone from Benjamin Gates in National Treasure to Dracula in Renfield, Cage certainly has range, but his signature over-the-top nature just doesn't feel suited for a biblical commentary that appears to be taking itself seriously. Again, Cage himself doesn't deliver a bad performance whatsoever, it just tonally clashes with the rest of the movie. FKA Twigs fares a bit better, essentially functioning as the more loving foil to Cage's strict and devout carpenter. While she's undeniably an important part of the son's journey, she isn't given too much to do in the wider story, and even becomes the subject of a fairly odd third act where it's never really contextualized how exactly she's involved. Alongside Jupe himself, another great performance in the movie is Isla Johnston as a mysterious teen whom the son befriends. The Queen's Gambit star almost feels like the antithesis to Cage's performance, as they chew the scenery with their cryptic comments in a way that fits the tone and setting of the film much better. The Carpenter's son certainly deserves an abundance of credit for trying to say something refreshing about religion and coming of age, using a more traditional biblical setting. As a horror movie or thriller, though, the slow burn isn't going to be to everybody's taste, and those who are vibing with the film's slower pacing may also be put off by the abrupt and oddly paced ending. The direction that the Carpenter's son is charting is the right one, as there are some moments of genuine intrigue, and it's not always clear if the titular character is going to fall into the path of the dark side or take on a more noble path. However, Cage's supporting role and the rest of the movie's more meandering moments and subplots, including a rushed ending, prevent it from being heralded as the enduring cult classic that a lot of Cage's other recent hits have become. The Carpenter's Son comes to theaters on November 14th.